Hi everyone, welcome back. In last video, you mastered the two golden rules of this. Rule 1. Regular functions are chameleons. Their color depends on how they are called. Rule 2. Arrow functions are photographs. They capture this from where they were defined. Now, you might be thinking, I get it. I just need to provide the object every time with a dot to fix the errors, right? But here is a twist. In real world, you are not always the one calling the function. Sometimes you hand your function over to a system, like forEach, setTimeout, or an event listener. You hand your chameleon to a stranger, and the moment you hand it over, you lose the dot, you lose the control. This is the callback trap, and it accounts for the next 25% of your these errors. In part 1, we saw one version of these errors, the event listener, where this became the DOM element. Today, we learn how to protect your functions when it leaves your hand in the other scenarios. Let's look at this person object. It has a name and a list of hobbies. We want to loop through and print them. Let's trace this carefully. We call person.showHobbies. That has a dot. So rule 1 applies here. That is why inside the main method, this is the person. So we can access this dot name and even this dot hobbies. That's great. But then we pass a regular function, a chameleon to a for each as a callback. Here is the danger. We are not calling the function. We are just handing it over. For each takes it and somewhere deep inside the JavaScript's internal code, for each calls it. And how does for each call it? It calls it as a simple function invocation. No dot, no object. As you can see in non-strict mode in browser, the value of this inside the callback will be the window object. So this dot name becomes window dot name, which is usually empty. If we are in strict mode, a simple function call sets this to undefined. Bam! The chameleon lost its color because we handed it to a stranger for each who didn't provide a branch. It's undefined. Now, I want you to notice a key difference from our button crash in video 1. With the button, the DOM forces this to be the element which triggers the event. But here, with for each or set timeout, it defaults to the global object in non-strict mode or undefined in strict mode. Different strangers, but the result is the same. We lost control over our chameleon. So, how do we force the chameleon to stay the color we want, even we are not the one calling it? We have three ways to fix it. Solution 1 is the old school way. You mostly see this in legacy code, so you should be able to recognize it. Let's quickly look into that before we moving to the modern way. The actual issue is we are losing this in our callbacks, right? So we save the correct this into a dummy variable, commonly called as that or sometimes self in a legacy code. Since variables follow the normal scoping rules, the inner function can still find the dummy variable. It works, but it's a bit clunky, right? This relies on the concept of closures, which is another big topic for another day. Let's look at the solution to the standard modern fix. Instead of handing over a chameleon, we hand over a photograph and arrow function. So let's see why this works. From our video 1, we know that arrow function took a picture of this right when we defined it inside the method. At that time, the value of this is person. It doesn't matter that for each calls it without a dot. The photo is already developed. This is logged in as person forever. So it works. Finally, let's look at the solution 3, the special tool way. What if you must use a regular function? Maybe you are using a library that requires it. In this case, you can use a tool called .bind. .bind acts like a super glue. We are explicitly telling the chameleon, I don't care who calls you or how they call you. I am binding you to this specific object forever. It forces the function to use our chosen object. It is like freezing the chameleon's color. So it creates a new function that is manually forced to use our person object. So even when you lose control of how a function is called, like in callbacks, event listeners or timers, you now have the tools to handle it. You can use a photograph, arrow functions to remember the context, or you can use a super glue, the dot bind to force it. But wait, dot bind is actually part of powerful trio, right? You might have heard this word alongside the two others, the call and apply. When should you use which? And how do they allow you to borrow methods from other objects? That is the topic of our next video, the special tools. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. See you in the next one. Until then, happy coding.